everyone, and welcome to another episode of 20TIMinutes. Today, I'm joined by mental health advocate for postpartum depression, Rachelle Rozon. Hello, Rachelle. How are you?
I'm great. Thank you, Tim. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thanks for asking. I always appreciate it. So, Rachelle is a former hairstylist turned badass entrepreneur, a yoga practitioner, mother of one, and just an overall great human being, which we will get to. So, Rachelle, I reached out to you to speak on postpartum depression because one, some listeners asked to hear about it on the topic, and two, I don't know much about it myself. So I like to learn about different aspects of mental health. But if you could, can you explain in your own words what postpartum depression is and the good work you're doing to help people in need?
Yeah, so postpartum depression can really come on anytime during the first year after having your baby. It is not the same as the baby blues, which is like the first 2 or 3 weeks after you have a baby and your hormones are all shifting and adjusting and you feel like all over the place, very kind of like cryy, stuff like that. That is not what postpartum is. Postpartum depression is much more serious. Um, it affects mentally, physically, every aspect of your life. It can make it so that you can't leave your home. It's really debilitating. And that is like the main issue that I try to like help people understand is how serious it is, because there's a lot of people that just like brush it under the rug, like, oh, you'll feel better soon, or like go outside. It's not like that. Like, it is a
Yeah.
process. And I feel like a lot of mothers, because of like the shame around it, don't get help, which leads to just being a depressed, anxious mom. And so it's really important to get help in the beginning. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, of course. Hey, if I can understand it, I feel like other people will understand it. So what do you do exactly for those people in need? I looked at your profile on like Twitter and Instagram, and you have like the whole link tree with everything. You do like one-on-one consultations with people. What else do you do to help mothers in need?
So there's a ton of resources. I have a Facebook group, which is open to all mothers that are struggling. We post content in there every day. That's kind of like a safe space for people to talk about what they're going through without having to like do a one-on-one call if they're uncomfortable with that.
Mhm.
So we do that. I do content on Instagram every day that's related to postpartum in some way, shape, or form. I do the complimentary support calls, which are just to see if there's anything else, anywhere that I could redirect to, any resources that I can help with. Um, and then there is the program that I created, which is Postpartum and Beyond. That is launching in May. And so that is like a deep dive for either women that are struggling in what I call crisis mode, which is basically like when you're really down and you need all the support you can get because you can't function. So you can be anywhere from that to a mom with like a 10-year-old who has struggled with anxiety and depression and isn't happy with where their life is. I go through a bunch of tools that help you understand your depression and your anxiety. So there's education, there's a bunch of practical tools that you can use, and then there's a bunch of like assessment tools so you can kind of see what's going on in your life and where you can make changes. And the beautiful thing about this program is that it is a lifetime membership. So you pay one fee and then you get a lifetime of support. The program will be there as long as I am breathing and able to facilitate it. So it's a really cool opportunity for moms that like want to get help but don't want to go see a therapist or something, like just somebody else who has done all of that work already and is passing on the best of all of the therapy, all of the education, and all of that that helped me get where I am.
That's fantastic. And to do one-on-one consultations, like no one asked you to do that. So it just shows a lot about your character, taking the time to help out anyone that's looking for it. So
Yeah.
that is very awesome of you. Can you talk about your transition? Because you said you turned hairstylist, turned entrepreneur. So what was your backstory like, and what was the tide turning moment that you were like, I need to do this. I need to start helping people?
Well, I've always been like that. I've always had like these big plans to help as many people as I can. That's just my personality. Uh, but it was the whole like unsatisfying soul part of doing hair, which was just not like I can have one-on-one conversations with people when it's about stuff that's important and I love it. But when you're just like, you know, talking about somebody's dog or like whatever, it's just not fulfilling to me.
Right.
So actually, I stopped doing hair when I was pregnant the first time, and unfortunately, I had a miscarriage. But I was like quite far along in my pregnancy, so at that time, it was like I took a break from doing hair. I didn't want that one-on-one connection with people. I just went to work at a bank and like kind of switched it up and stuff. And then I was fortunate enough to be able to stay home when I had my daughter because her dad has always had a really good career. And it wasn't until we separated that this whole thing happened for me. It was like we separated in the summertime, and then I went back to work at a salon until March, and then COVID hit. So it was like, what am I doing now? I'm a single mom. There's a worldwide pandemic. Like, what is going on?
Oh man, that gives me anxiety for you in that situation.
Yeah, but through all of that and like finding the opportunity to work with this mentor that I had wanted to work with for a long time, she's done a lot for me in terms of teaching me how to package my expertise into something that can actually help people. And so that girl for me, Sunny Leonarduzzi, she was huge in like helping me understand that I can have a business and help people and be genuine, like all at the same time. So that was kind of the turning point for me when I got into contact with her and enrolled in her program.
That's fantastic. Yeah, even speaking with you, you are a personable person. You're very personable. That's the word. Like it's not fake, and you generally have conversations. And looking at your content, you do post like every day and put out a lot of content. So you had experience with postpartum, and was it during what part of your having a child, sorry, and with the miscarriage? Like for me, I don't know much. Again, I'm a married man, not planning on having kids, but I'm trying to learn about different things so we can help other people that may be a future parent or somebody that's a friend of somebody with postpartum. That's our goal today, is to help those types of people. So what was your experience like with the postpartum and all of that?
With my experience, pretty much as soon as I like got to the hospital to give birth, I could tell that something was not right. I had anxiety and depression before pregnancy, but I didn't really understand that. I wasn't aware that I was struggling with that. So pretty much as soon as I got into the hospital, I started having panic attacks and like, I didn't want to have drugs and stuff with the birth. I was like very granola at the time. And so I got there, I started stressing out. I was like, give me the drugs, give me the epidural. So then that helped calm me down a little bit. But once that kind of wore off and I was laying in the bed, it was like before Christmas and there was like Christmas songs on the radio and I was just like very, very emotional. I was like, what have I done? Because for me, I was the kind of person that like, I always wanted to be a mom. That was all I really ever wanted, was to have kids and be a wife and stuff. But I was so young at the time when I got married and like I hadn't figured out who I was. I didn't really know anything about myself at the time. And so when I was holding my daughter in my arms, it was like all of a sudden I felt this, like my world crashed down around me. It was like all opportunity ceased to exist. And I felt like I was imprisoned, kind of, to be honest with you. So basically from there, I went home. Everybody was like, just like, let yourself get used to this. It's going to be okay. And I was like, I don't think I'm okay, but I'll give it a chance because that's what people tell you.
Mm-hmm.
And then I started having these really scary thoughts in my head. And that's what forced me to go get help. So it was around day 10. I don't know, like what the content, I've listened to some of your podcasts, but I don't want to get into like horrible detail that's going to like scare people.
No, I'm pretty open about like my life. So whatever you want to share, that's totally up to you. And I'm
Okay.
thankful for whatever you want to share.
Yeah. So I was just having like these really weird images of like a knife slicing a wrist. It wasn't like, I didn't know if it was mine or what it was. But it was really disturbing. And so I was like, do I want to kill myself? Like, what is happening here? My brain was very confused. Like I couldn't really make coherent thoughts at the time. And so I spoke with my husband at the time. I was like, I need to go to the doctor right now. And so we packed up, we went to the doctor. He's like, well, it looks like you're experiencing postpartum depression. So let's get you on medication. Let's find you a counselor. Let's get you into a support group. Thank goodness, because not all doctors are like that. And I've heard horror stories of women that are just like, their doctor told them to shrug it off, which is insane to me how a medical professional could do that.
Right.
So at that point, I got involved with all of those things. And the healing process was like a slow burn. It was like my husband at the time took a medical leave because I was afraid to be alone because I just didn't know what was going to happen. And it was like a solid 3 months, I would say, before I started feeling like I wasn't in the pit of hell. Like every day I would just wake up. I was, I didn't want to die, but I didn't want to live because life sucked at that moment. Like there's no words to describe how dark and awful. If you've experienced depression, I don't know if you have or not, but like imagine that and not being able to sleep and having a newborn. It's
Right.
like, come on. It's a little much.
I deal with depression too. And I know exactly what you mean. Like I'd be driving to work and I would just be at a low point. I'd be like, I don't care if my car just drives off the road right now, but I wouldn't do it. So I know that
Right.
middle ground. It's like that really gray area.
Yeah. Yeah.
So were you privy to postpartum before you were pregnant? Like you knew nothing about it, just baby blues?
No idea. And that's what was so frustrating too, is because like my sisters all have kids. Like I've been an aunt since I was like a kid myself, and like always been around babies, no shortage of knowledge on all of that stuff. So it was shocking to me because I had no idea what postpartum depression even was or that it was possible.
Yeah, I always heard the word and I kind of like got the gist of it. But again, like this is why I'm doing this, to learn more. I wouldn't say I thought it was the baby blues, but I knew it had to do something with the connection to the baby or like feeling detachment or stuff. I did talk to a lot of friends and people that I asked to reach out that was open to talk about postpartum. And I did learn a lot from them too. So it was, it's very cool to have people open up to me, because I'll be honest with you, I'm definitely afraid of this, not definitely afraid of this conversation, because again, I'm just a regular dude that like has nothing to do with postpartum. So I don't want to say that a dumb thing, but my intent is genuine. I like learning about stuff, and my wife and friends were like very like, that's cool that you're doing that. So yeah, you answered like 20 of my questions I had lined up. Like, what are you doing?
So prepared. I know this topic, and
I know that just goes to show, if you're listening to this right now, she is beyond legit. So please link up with her. Did you have anything specific you would do or say to help you feel quote unquote normal? Like, did you have any coping mechanisms during that? You're like, okay, try to keep yourself grounded.
Yeah. So I have this process that I refer to as get safe. And it is very individual for anybody. For me, it's getting like, I have to feel comforted. So like for me, it would be making sure that I was wearing stuff that wasn't restricting, and like playing Seinfeld in the background while I was doing anything during the day, like just stuff that would bring comfort to me. having people around. I had to have somebody with me 24/7 for the first little while. Pretty much that. And then, you know, it gets better as you go, and you don't have to like put as much effort into it as you get better. But in the beginning, like I said, it's kind of like crisis mode, and there's like, it's just survival in that time. Like it's really, you are just getting one day to the next. You're not worried about anything else. But once you get out of crisis mode, comfort is really, really helpful. Comfort and support.
Always a great duo to have. Now with postpartum with different women, what are some similarities between the thought process and feeling process? And do you notice any differences that some people experience opposed to the others?
Yeah, there's a lot of difference actually. Like some women become like very, they don't bond with their babies. That was something that I was really grateful that I didn't have to deal with. But yeah, some women just like have a really hard time with that. A lot of women struggle with like having nightmares of awful things happening to their babies. Generally speaking, there's like just this underlying fear that something awful is going to happen to your baby. That's like the driving point behind a lot of like the panic attacks and the like spinning out in your mind and catastrophizing because you're having these thoughts, you don't know what's going on. So it's really important to just like educate yourself, just get knowledge on what is happening, because then you can start to like tell yourself that you're not crazy and that like you're not going to do any of these awful things. You have to just like be very aware, trying to be aware of what's happening, I guess, is really important. I don't know that there's like a lot of commonalities because everyone's so different other than the fear thing. A judgment, I know, is something that a lot of postpartum mommies deal with.
What's that?
Feeling like everyone is judging them and it doesn't matter what they do, they're never going to do the right thing, like stuff like that. That's
feeling
that's pretty common.
An inadequate mother per se, like they just feel like they're not up to par.
Yeah.
Oh, that's a shame. If you had to explain to somebody, I think this is mostly for me, I love analogies. How would you explain postpartum in like an analogy form? You're like, in any way you would think.
Postpartum depression is like being in a pool. Like say you're in a pool that is filled with wet clay and you are trying to walk from the West Coast to the East Coast, and you can see it. You know it's there, like you will get through this somehow, but you have no idea how. That's what it feels like, trudging through wet clay every day with a baby.
So absolutely terrifying. Okay.
Yeah. And like suffocating. Like it feels very, you know, when you're depressed, it's like colors lose their vibrancy, like everything is muted. So if you're lucky enough to be in kind of a numb stage, but oftentimes you're even farther below that, right? Where you're like scrambling just to survive. So like it's not a pretty time.
No, it does not sound like it. I know one of my friends I was talking to, I think one of the problems she was having, and I know you said attachment with your child is breastfeeding. Like they wouldn't latch on and they were just not doing good with that. So I know that was like a big one. There were some terms I learned though. They would talk to me about a midwife. And then at one point I go, what is a midwife? Because I didn't know. It was like one of those things, like, I feel like they're talking to a friend, and with me coming out of the blue, asking about postpartum, they're like, yeah, midwife. I was like, what? I don't know if I should ask what that is. But let me try to, it's pretty much a nurse that helps, that it specializes in postpartum, right?
Pretty much, yeah. It's like whereas your doctor kind of like you do a check-in with them and then you're done, with like a midwife, they'll kind of come and check on you a couple of times after you have your baby. They do more of the postpartum care, whereas like GPs or whatever, they just like kind of send you in and out and then you're done once you have your baby.
So does a midwife like literally come to your house, or they just call you up, check in with you?
Nope, they will. Well, here they come to your house.
Okay.
Where's I don't know here? What it's like there, Canada.
Oh, what part of Canada? I didn't even ask where you were from.
Oh, yeah. Vancouver Island. So I'm on the west.
Nice.
Yeah. And where are you right now?
I'm in
I know
Boston.
Boston. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought it was the East.
Yeah, our accent differential is
Yeah.
people are going to be very confused from each side of this interview. Like, who are these people? So another thing that I was asking, because I asked a bunch of people, and I had a husband reach out to me, and I asked different people about this, and they were kind of split. Can men suffer from postpartum? And what is your take on that?
Apparently, yes.
Okay.
I don't personally agree that that's a thing. I think men can certainly suffer from depression after this whole thing because, like, my partner at the time, he was very low. It was like, you're expecting to have this child and your wife is going to be like so pumped and like life will be beautiful and the three of you will go for picnics and, but then you fall apart. So now the partner is left supporting everyone and trying to provide a lot of the time. So it's like a huge stress on the partner. So my husband at the time got very, very down as well. I don't think it was postpartum depression though. For me, postpartum depression is for women. Like men, because there's that hormonal difference, like they don't experience that, which to me is a huge part of why it happens in the first place, is that hormone imbalance. But certainly they can be very affected after, and it's very hard for them.
Right. I feel like I would agree to that statement, because I think the definition of postpartum definitely reflects for women. And I would say that because it doesn't compare by the way you're explaining it from the men and the woman side. Like obviously they can be stressed and try to help, and it could be frustrating for sure. But I think that, yeah, I would say that depression would probably be possibly the case in that scenario for the man side. Is there a prepartum?
A prepartum? You can have like depression while you are pregnant.
Okay.
But it's not really like classified as anything. It's just like,
yeah, you'll definitely get some
depression, maybe they call it.
You'll definitely get some dumb questions. Yeah, it was one of those things.
There's
like
no such thing as a dumb question.
Just dumb people. Okay, get it.
No. But before we move on from partners, though, I just want to say that a lot of the time, especially with women, when their babies get a little bit older and they're like kind of 6, 7, 8 months, and they're like sitting up and stuff, and they feel like things are kind of getting back to normal. Don't forget, for the women, how hard it is for your partner, because it's not easy for them either. And a lot of women, I feel like, get resentful towards their partner that they're like not doing enough or whatever, but they're doing what they can do. And a lot of the time the moms won't like specifically say, I need help with this. Mm-hmm. So like communicate with your partner. Everybody is struggling. This isn't easy for anyone. Really important to remember that. And for the men too, like, or women, whoever your partner is, mm-hmm. Just like being there and listening. Like you don't need to fix the problem. You just need to be there to lean on. That's a good piece of advice for partners.
I think a tough thing with anything with depression and mental disorders is, how do you get somebody out of that area where they're so deep down when you give them that suggestion, being like, be more open, and they're like, fuck it, I don't want to be. Like they're just in their own ways. Like, is there a way that you help them get out of that?
That's a good question. I don't think that you can force anybody out of that. You can't, anybody that's in that phase, you can't force them to do anything. But just like gentle reminders, like, remember, like, I'm struggling too, you're struggling, it's okay, we'll get through it together.
That is a tough thing to get out of. And then I was going to ask about the suicidal thing, but you said you weren't, but you had thoughts of it. Do a lot of women have suicidal thoughts?
Well, they're not necessarily always suicidal thoughts. They're called intrusive thoughts. So it can be hard to tell the difference between them, because intrusive thoughts are, like you had said earlier, sometimes I'm like driving down the thing and I just like imagine your car going off the road or whatever. Like
Right.
But when you're a mom and you're having thoughts that are like of violent, horrifying things happening to your baby or yourself, that's when sometimes women get confused with thinking they're suicidal or not. But really, what it is usually is that they're just having these intrusive thoughts. And, but yeah, suicide definitely. Um, I was suicidal at one time after I had my daughter, when I went through like my next depressive episode. But it did not last long. It was kind of like a moment where I was sitting in bed and I was looking outside and I was like, is this my life now? Like, my daughter was 2, so I had spent pretty much the first like 8 or 9 months of her life being like survival mode, therapy all the time, like panic attacks. And I was like, is this my life? And then it got a little bit better. And then when she was about 2.5, bunch of stuff happened, went through another depression. And I just woke up one day and I was like, am I going to do this? Like, it was a very conscious, like, am I going to not carry on with this anymore? Or am I going to? And it was like, you've made it this far, keep going. So it was like a very interesting moment where I had like that choice to make, and I chose to go forward.
It's very admirable too, because a lot of us have those thoughts in our head about anything, and to share that and to be open about that just shows your character and your willingness to help people.
Well, and just that it's normal, right? Like life isn't easy, and life is especially not easy now because like all the technology, we can see disasters happening all over the place and stuff. And it's just like, there's a steady stream of shit coming into our lives, right? So you have to be like really aware of like your boundaries and stuff like that. And I find that that comes into play a lot after you have kids too. It's like all of a sudden you become aware that like there's all these horrible things happening in the world, and got to protect your mind.
I always felt bad during the pandemic for friends that were having kids and then the husband like wasn't allowed in the room. I was like, if that was me, I'd be like scratching and crawling to get in there. Like that is like the most unfair thing I've heard of in the past like recent year.
Yeah, it's brutal. I'm very grateful that I did not have to have a baby during this time.
Yeah, it's people hanging tough. That's salute to them. Now, what was probably the most frustrating or annoying thing people would do or say that like friends or family or strangers that you were just like, all right, I get it?
You know, for me, it was when I decided to go on medication, because that was something that I really didn't want to do. But everyone in my life was like, you have to do this, you're falling apart. And there was a conversation I had with my dad. So I've had like, we have mental health history in our family. Everyone does, but like, you know, people that we've, you know, lost to it and stuff like that. And my dad was like very concerned about me going on antidepressants. He's like, well, you know, I think you can just get through it. I was like, Dad, your brother killed himself. So I'm pretty sure that like you should recognize that me getting help is a good thing. So that was really challenging for me. But to be honest, most of the stuff in my life was like, people were pretty good because I put up very firm boundaries. I was like, I don't want people coming over. If you're coming over, you're bringing me food and like cleaning my house, doing something for me. So most of the people around were like very helpful, and you know, I didn't have a lot of issues.
That's good. What about like other mothers out there? Like what is their preferred method if you know, or if they explain it?
Everyone is so different. It really depends. Like it's a personal thing.
Right. I feel like the majority of the ones I talked to, they would just like show up and just like do whatever, like play a board game, like bring food, like you said, or just like hang out and chat, like kind of like not even bring the topic up.
Right.
Try to keep their mind off it, which is always a good ploy to do with any kind of topic that people are going through.
Just kind of like make light a little bit. I mean, you have to like approach it and like deal with it, but you can't like dwell on it because then it becomes a problem.
100%. That's what I do with pretty much all the topics on mental health. You got to keep it light because like life is crazy. It's scary, and you got to laugh at some point. So you got to find that in between to smile at some point and try to make someone smile during difficult times. Like we're all here to help
Yeah,
one another.
I appreciate that that is the way that you kind of like approach your podcast is mental health, like with a bit of a attitude towards it, because yeah, like you have to be, yeah, you got to get through it. If you just focus on like all the negative, then you drown, truly.
It's when you keep it all inside and don't share it is when it's worst. And then you get so scared, then like you get vulnerable about sharing it. And then you like kind of sit there, you're like, what are people thinking? And then you get so much support back. People are like, I feel the same way too. And you're like, thank Christ.
It's not just me.
I know. And like there's so many people out there that just feel like they're crazy. And it's like not fair to feel like that because everyone's crazy.
It's true. We're all very unique individual people.
Truly. And I always think about this because on a recent episode, I talked about like, I thought about the idea of like historical figures having mental health problems, like Abe Lincoln having anxiety before he went out for his Gettysburg Address, like Michelangelo, like having OCD, like just stuff like that. Then I think about like someone like maybe like Abigail Adams or like some historical feature having postpartum and they're like, you're just being crazy. You're a witch. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's like they just had to deal with it. And like, thank Christ for like medication now and like the knowledgeable people. And it's like I always try to think about like what people suffered through then. And I'm like, what do we complain about? Obviously, like not complaining about postpartum, but like say like I'm cold in my house. And then like back then people were like sitting over a fire. I'm like, what am I complaining about? Like I have it so good compared to like what people go through. And I don't like to compare myself to other people, and you probably don't either, but you're doing it the opposite. Like you're comparing yourself to other people to help them. You're not like complaining like I would do sometimes.
No. Comparison to other people is just the killer of the soul.
It really is. And I heard a great thing from somebody that told me this recently. It's like my worst could be your best.
Yeah.
And that really like resonated with me. And I was like, that's so true. Because I it's like when like, you know how it is, like people will be like, oh yeah, my brother has the same thing. You're like, well, I'm not your brother. And I have it totally different. Like we might have the same diagnosis, but like you said, like my journey is totally different from yours. Something I could like can trigger me, all that stuff. What was the other thing? So you would just recommend like friends and family to just come over and just kind of just chill out, check up on you, kind of like no questions asked almost.
Yeah, like I always recommend people to pick 3 people that if you called them at 2 a.m. and you needed them to come over, they would come over. Pick those 3 people and cling to them. And like let them know, you know, like be like, hey, I'm going through a really hard time right now. If I call you in the middle of the night, I need you to answer the phone. It's okay to tell people that because they won't help if they don't know how intensely you're struggling, right? So just open up and let it out.
Do you know the TV show What Would You Do with John Quixotes, where they like put people in scenarios and it's on like ABC or something. So what they do is they do like real life scenarios with actors and see how like the public would react to it. So it would be like there would be like a Down syndrome like bagger and someone would like demean them and people would be like, what are you fucking doing? Like go crazy. But there was one that kind of got me started on this topic. It was postpartum, where they had a woman kind of have a breakdown in a restaurant. And they showed how people would react. And I'd say like 9 out of the 10 of them like jumped into action and like sat with her. And like some woman was like, I've been through it. She's been through it. And there was like a couple of guys that stood up and like, they didn't understand it, but they were like consoling her and stuff. And I thought that was so cool. And I was like, I wonder if like other people know how to deal with that. Cause I wouldn't know what to do. If I saw someone crying, I'd be like, are you okay? But I wouldn't know. Like I'm always conscious of saying the wrong thing, as you can tell by the way I'm talking with you. I'm always like trying, because I talk before I think, and I'm like, all right, be sure you think before you say something dumb. But yeah, I'm surprised you haven't heard of that show. It gives me high anxiety watching.
Well, then it's a good thing that I don't watch it.
You should YouTube it, and
anxiety.
If you want a quick panic attack, that's like real quick. Just watch that. It will be an adventure for you. What's the biggest misconception of postpartum?
That it's something that will just go away. It's not. It's classified as a disease. There is treatment available for it. And it's something that every single woman who thinks they may be struggling with it needs to go talk to their healthcare provider about.
And I know you touched on it a little bit, like this can last from like a day to like what, like years?
Years. Yeah. If you don't get it treated, I see moms walking around all the time. I'm like, I bet you were undiagnosed. And because you know why? It's because what ends up happening is they become resentful of their children. And so it's very easy to spot, a very overwhelmed mother who is just not getting the self-care and the education and the support that she needs. It's very easy to see that. And I think a lot of the time it stems from untreated postpartum.
Do you ever see like a young mother walking around? You just want to go up and like hug them and be like, I,
Yeah.
I can only
I
imagine.
approach women all the time. Like if I see moms, this is the typical mom that I see that I would approach like out in my area if I'm out for a walk. You see this mom and she's just like got her one little baby and she's walking her dog and like in the bundle thing. And you can just see that look in their eyes that they're just not enjoying life. And I just go up and like, are you okay? And then sometimes people look at you like you're a crazy person and like protect their baby and like run. And
Give me that
sometimes
baby.
yeah, sometimes people will open up to you right then and there and tell you everything that's going on. And then they're like, God, I'm so glad that you stopped to ask me that question. And you can see the relief in their eyes when they leave. So, yeah, I mean, just are you okay? It's not that hard to ask people.
I feel like though, I feel like there is that, you probably heard this before. There is a stereotype with Canadians that you guys are super nice.
Oh, yeah.
So I feel like like if someone did that, and I'm just saying this because I'm from here, is like someone did that in Boston, like you went up to a random girl, she'd be like, what the fuck are you talking? Like she would be so like defensive. But obviously you would help somebody, but like people are so more brash here than I feel like Canadians
Yeah.
are. Like every time I hear about Canadians, every time I talk to one, they're like so nice. They're just like the best. And I can see that being the case. You'd be like, hey, do you need help? Like, or you just have to jump up like, hey, have you heard about postpartum depression? Just scare them.
It's a solid point, though. Yes, Canadians are quite polite. Usually.
That's a good stereotype to have, though, right? I feel like there's like
it's
other
like
bad
the
stereotypes, right?
Yeah.
Like you guys are so fucking nice. It's like, oh, sorry, thank you.
Yeah, sorry, thank you. Exactly.
I've been to Canada a couple of times. I went to Toronto. That's the only place I want to go, but I would love to go to Vancouver. That's Vancouver with
Vancouver Island is
so
not Vancouver.
so it's like right off to the left. Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah,
See, I know.
Island in the bottom.
I know my geography a little bit.
Yes.
I know my.
Yes.
I think I know my. It's what is it? Canada. So it's not a county. What is it? It's not like a state. It's a. What would you call province? Okay, I'm getting there. I judge my provinces in Canada based on NHL hockey teams. Are you a hockey fan?
I mean, I live in Canada, so I know it, but
That's great. A non-hockey fan from Canada. That's a rare sight. I feel like you guys like had to grow up playing hockey.
Well, my brother was a football player, so it was always more football in our family.
Now, is Canada football like football?
Football
like
is actually football. Like,
okay, you get the CFL.
Yeah.
You have a great form. That's fantastic. You pretty much already answered this, but what did you learn about the whole experience? Any regrets, and how did it feel to let it all out and come out with it? Which you've already went over it, but we'll definitely end that with this.
What I learned from the whole experience is that when you go through the most challenging thing that you can imagine going through, there is always something better and brighter on the other side. And for me, that process was all about, now that I can like look back at it and I've done so much reflecting and therapy and all of that, it was about me finding my courage. That's what that opportunity brought me. So I wouldn't change it. It has brought me where I am today. And it's just like really important to remember that there's always a choice, like no matter how shitty you feel or how deep, dark in the nastiness you are, you do have the ability to choose to try to get better. So keep doing that. Do I have any regrets? I don't think so.
That's always good. That's always a great answer when someone say they don't have any regrets.
Yeah.
I will say this. I will say this about you. You are a fantastic person to be doing this, and you should be proud of yourself. And I don't know you too well. I just met you, but I'm proud of you. And I appreciate you taking the time to educate me and hopefully somebody else, a future mother, father, whatever, a friend. I think that is, you gave me a lot of information. Hopefully I can translate to somebody else. I'd be like, hey, don't have a kid, but I talked to my good friend Rachelle and she can do some one-on-one consultations.
Yes,
So
yeah.
I'll
No,
refer
I
everybody.
appreciate being here. Thank you. It's been a great opportunity.
Thank you so much. So we'll end with this. I know I talked to you about some things we'll have some fun with. So we'll start off. Because music's a big part of my life, and I feel like everyone, like, you ever meet someone that doesn't like listen to music? Have you ever, like, they're just like, yeah, I don't know it. I'm like, what?
No, I
Oh,
don't think so.
there's a couple people I met, and I'm like, whoa. So, what is it, your music suggestion if you're listening to a certain artist, album, or song that like got you through the tough times, or just in general?
So for music, what if I'm feeling like I need to like cry, I will listen to Hillsong United. They are like a band that I grew up with because I grew up in church. So they're worship music, but it's very like makes you want to cry. So if you need a cry, that. One of my other favorite bands is Need to Breathe. They're from the States and they're kind of like rock, like kind of like country rock almost.
Okay.
They've got like a good mix of like upbeat, like get in the car, go for a drive music, and then some like quieter stuff as well. Um, I mean, I could go on and on and on. Those
Yeah,
are like
I'm the
the
same
two
way.
main ones for me right now.
Music like hits you such in the feel sometimes, and then like I'll hear certain songs that bring me back to like high school or like certain scenarios
Oh
that
yeah.
happen in my life. My crying music is Kesha. There's like 5 songs I'd be driving to work and just like profusely cry, and I'm like, that Kesha's my girl. I was supposed to see her this year, but the pandemic hit, and I was like, I was devastated. I was like, Lindsay, we're not seeing Kesha. But yeah, she's my girl. Now, what is like a movie kind of in that same question of around like what's your go-to movie or something you
Yeah,
saw?
so I mean, if I'm like sad and I want to put something on to cheer me up, I'll put on The Wedding Singer is usually a good one, or Happy Gilmore. I was watching The Wedding Singer while I was in labor, just like walking around the house pacing.
We could waste the next
Obviously,
hour.
I see that you love it.
Yeah. So I feel like we could waste the next hour of talking Adam Sandler movies and quoting
Oh yeah.
everything. So, all right, if you can do it real quick, what is your top 5 Adam Sandler movies? Because I have mine ready.
Well, The Wedding Singer is number one for sure. I
Okay.
really enjoyed 50 First Dates
Okay.
and Billy Madison, like the old,
Yeah,
old
yeah.
Adam
I'm an old
Sandler,
school Adam Sandler.
yeah, where he was kind of dumb. I really like Big Daddy.
Yeah,
Um,
classic.
oh, what's another one? There's like so many now. I
Billy
can't think.
Madison,
The
Happy
I said
Gilmore,
that.
Happy
Yeah,
Gilmore,
Happy Gilmore, The Wedding Singer.
51st Dates, Big Daddy.
Is that 5?
Yeah, that's 5. Wedding
Okay, that's
Singer,
all.
Wedding
Yeah,
Singer, 50-50, Happy Gilmore, Billy Madison,
yeah,
Big Daddy.
yeah,
Mine would
yeah.
be Billy Madison, um, Happy Gilmore, Wedding Singer. Number 4 is a great movie that came up out of nowhere for me. Like I was taking a nap and I watched it. I go, this is the funniest movie in the world. Is That's My Boy with Andy Samberg.
Oh, I
If
haven't seen that one.
Okay, it looked like it was
Okay.
going to be bad and it looked like it wouldn't get good reviews, but I like sat up and was like belly laughing. Like that cracked
Okay.
my top 5, and then 5 would be Big Daddy. So we're kind of in the same ballpark.
Yeah.
So yeah, you're a legit Billy Adam Sandler.
I get quotes from Billy Madison all the time, like it's too damn hot for a penguin to be just walking
Yeah,
around.
yeah. And I every time I go to a wedding, I go, hopefully we're table 9, but like, hey, the mutant's at table 9. Like I always want to be that. It's like self-taught, no lessons. Pop. Oh, yeah, I could do that for, we could do this for, we might have to do an extra episode just doing all of that.
Just with like obscene movie quotes.
Yes, 100%.
But
and then
there was a different movie that I was going to say before we got onto that topic.
okay, I'm sorry.
It's called Adventures of Power. Have you seen this?
No.
Okay, so it's a movie about this kid who lives in like, I don't know, some desert town, New Mexico or something like that.
Sounds about
And
right.
he's like 30 years old, lives with his very eccentric aunt who's played by Jane Lynch. She's like in a lot of
Love
stuff.
her.
And he has this dream. He's like a little bit simple, and he has this dream of becoming um, an air drum champion. So the story follows his quest to get into the championship of air drumming. It's hilarious. It's
It's
like a little bit off brand, and like not everybody would like it. But if you like quirky, hilarious movies, then that one is worth checking out.
I feel like I'm pretty much off brand. It's funny because we'll be in the car, me and my wife, and I'll start air drumming, and she's like, "You're so good at air drumming." I just don't know if she says that to me, but I should find that. There was always like the air guitar championships. Like I would look at like concerts coming up in my local place, and there'd be one to be like, "Oh, air guitar championship." I'm like, "What?" And I'll be like, "You know what? I should try entering this." But there's people that are like legit good. I'm like not even doing this.
Yeah.
And then the other thing was I like to end with three things you're grateful for, but they're kind of out of the box or ridiculous because I feel like we're always grateful for life, friends, family, and all that stuff. But do you have any like good ones for me? And I'm gonna judge you hard on these.
Okay. It's really hard to think of things that you're grateful for that aren't like typical things.
Yeah,
The one of the first things that came to my mind is how grateful I am for my ex-husband, which is something that not a lot of people would say. So I'm going to use that.
that's a great one. That's a great one. I'll give you a good one.
He's fantastic. Um, Grateful for weird things. I don't know. I'm grateful. Yeah, I don't know. I'm grateful that I have just like learned so much, and this is something that not a lot of people understand, but like I have a relationship with somebody who has another relationship. So like I'm really grateful for that dynamic because it really allows like all the things I need, but like being a little bit off brand,
Mm-hmm.
for like having that kind of situation. I don't know. I'm grateful for everything. I practice gratitude every day, like part of my
I'll give you a third one. You're grateful for the wedding singer because I think everyone
yeah,
should be grateful for that movie.
yeah,
So that's your third one.
I
Um,
am. What are yours? This is probably hard for you because you have to do this every time.
Actually, I sometimes normally don't because I try to get the other people, but I like you putting me
Oh,
on the spot. So I kind of have the same ones almost. I'm grateful for zebra cakes. Do you guys have zebra cakes up there?
no.
Little Debbie. They're like
I was gonna say, I imagine it's some kind of Twinkie.
yes, it's in the Twinkie family, but it's like a hexagon. What is that? Six sides, and
Okay,
it's a
yeah,
snack cake. And I
yeah.
actually have it tattooed on my leg. That's how much I love zebra cakes.
Looks like a zebra, I imagine. The colors.
The yes, it's white and with black lines on it. So yes, it looks like a zebra. They are phenomenal. I love them. Then the second thing I'm grateful for is a good back scratcher.
Mm,
You know what I mean? Like when you
yeah,
have that crazy itch, like sometimes I get itches and I can't reach it.
yeah,
So a back
yeah. My
scratcher is
uncle
great.
has one of those.
Is
Super
it
long one.
is it metal or wood?
It's wood and it's shaped
Ugh.
like a hand.
All right, the wood ones
Oh,
are
you
kind
don't
of
like
gross. Yeah, because like the dead skin kind of stays on it. At least with like the what is it like the metal ones? It's like it doesn't stay on there. So maybe you should get him a new birthday or Christmas present
Christmas. Yeah.
for a nice metal back scratcher. And then the third one, I would say all my animals. I have four animals that always make me happy when skies are gray. I have two cats and two dogs. I have a German Shepherd by the name of Charles. I have a Pit Bull Terrier by the name of Fanny. She's blind. She has one missing eye and one zombie eye. And then I have a Persian cat named Leo, and then I have a Maine Coon Calico mix by the name of Lucille that we named after Little
Oh.
Richard's song Lucille. But
See, that's not a weird thing to be grateful for. Your
okay.
animal family.
All right. I'll hit you with another one then. Okay. Put me on the spot. I like how you called me out. I would say I am thankful for another food group, buffalo chicken.
Mm,
Buffalo chicken is my comfort food. I always have a buffalo
okay.
chicken sub, and I also have a buffalo chicken tattoo. So these things mean a lot to me, obviously, because I have them tattooed, but it's not what you think. It's not what you think of a buffalo chicken tattoo. So it's the head of a buffalo and the body of a chicken.
Okay. I was imagining a drumstick.
Yeah. So mine's a little bit off brand, right?
Yeah, I like that. A little bit different. Just think a
little
little
bit
different.
That's how ridiculous I am. But Rachelle, I thank you so much for taking the time with me to speak with me. Hopefully I did a good job and didn't make myself look silly with asking these questions.
You did great.
Thank you so much. I just need I need you to make me feel better.
You kept it flowing. You didn't get off track. It was very, very well organized.
Right. But what you don't see is my whole back is sweating right now. But I really appreciate it. Again, I'm so happy for what you do. You're doing such a great job. Again, no one asked you to do any of this, and it just shows how big of a heart you have. And you're such a genuine person, such a great person. And I always end my episodes with this, so it's not weird to say. I'm just telling you, it's always the last thing I say to people, just in case something happens. But I love you. I tell everyone I love them. It's not like my wife, how I love her the most, but I love everybody that does great. And
we're all connected. Love you as well.
Appreciate it. I thank you so much. And let's plug everything that you have, where to find you. Tell everyone where they can locate you.
Okay, so where to find me? I am on Facebook mostly. I'm most active on Instagram, which is at RachelleRose.on, RACHELLROSE.ON. And through there is my bio with all of the links to everything you would need.
Yep, and I will do the same. It should be in the bio of this episode, so you can click it easily. I like how you did a little bit of sign language to do your name on Instagram.
I actually know sign language.
How funny!
That was not sign language.
Me and my wife actually did sign language, a beginner's course, and some woman. Do you know what this means?
This? Well, it depends. Was it ASL? Is this play?
It's ASL. So she said, I forget, she said this is mood. And then she did this and she was like, this means bipolar. Me and my wife were like, because I'm bipolar. And the fact that she brought that up out of nowhere, blew my mind.
No, I don't know that. That would be a very specific sign to learn bipolar. So you wouldn't just learn that generally.
Right. But it was a good class. I can try. I know the alphabet a little bit, but my favorite's K and P. K and P is my favorite because it just goes up and down. It's almost like a gang sign, but I don't know. The deaf community is really upset with me right now. But again, thank you so much. I had so much fun with you, and I can't thank you enough. And we'll definitely link up again. Rachelle Rozon, have a wonderful day, weekend, week, month, year.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
This podcast is not intended to be a substitute for professional medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always seek the advice of your physician or other qualified health provider with any questions you may have regarding a medical condition. If you are feeling suicidal, please dial 911.